guys, we're up here at the U.S. Shooting Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm here with my good buddy Steve Aryan. He's the lead instructor up here at USSA. And we're going to talk to you a little bit today about a little bit about shooting around vehicles. Now, while there's often a lot to be said about this topic, we're going to go ahead and for the purpose of this video kind of keep it short and talk a little bit about some of the real critical key components when it comes to shooting around vehicles. So, Steve, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this, man.
That sounds good. You know, vehicles are one of those few objects that offer both concealment and cover. So the vehicle will just consistently change from a point of concealment to a point of cover. So, you know, the front of the vehicle, anyone who's ever worked on cars or even opened the hood knows that this is where everything is. So this is where your engine and everything else is. So you've got a lot of both concealment and cover from this point. Also down here, this is an outstanding point of cover. This is probably some of the best ballistic protection on this entire vehicle is at this point right here. Now, one of the downsides to that point is it causes you to be in a kind of a disabled position as far as mobility goes. You know, you can get down on your back and shoot, putting your feet up against the wheel wells. You can get down in kind of a kneeling position, a really squatted kneeling, and try to like roll over on the ground and shoot underneath the vehicle. But that requires a couple of things. It's a great position of cover, but it does require a couple of things. And one is typically your target has to be at a certain distance for you to be able to see enough of the target to get a good hit on it. Certainly you could take, you know, shots such as ankle shots or knee shots if you had to in a situation, but obviously if we're going for center mass hits, you know, if we got targets that are real close, we may not want to put ourselves in that mobility section or that situation where we've lost that mobility. So those are some things to consider there. So we may actually move and start going around to the front of the vehicle instead. So the front of the vehicle offers some of the same ballistic protection as that does. Obviously we just have molding here on some of the front of this specific vehicle, up in the headlights and the grill area. So as we start to come around here, we're exposing a little bit of ourselves down low, but we also still have some good ballistic protection, and we can take shots at this, you know, utilizing this point of cover at targets at any distance. So that's a pretty good position. Now, one thing that you need to understand is that because I'm utilizing this point of cover doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be sucked up on it. You know, the same principles that we apply to all other types of cover apply here. You know, if we can back off this cover, maybe we should. Maybe a position for me to sneak around the front of this car and try to get shots is back here, because from back here I can also see the back of the vehicle a little bit better. So it provides me some, you know, peripheral vision if I, you know, still have the ability to do that. So the front of the vehicle here, we've got a couple of key points that we want to make sure that we understand that are good cover. One of those being the wheel well here, specifically where the tires or where the rotors and the wheels and the axles that go underneath where those are. Then obviously you have the engine block here as a outstanding source of ballistic protection as well. Any other points you want to hit here on this specific section?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's important to consider is that, you know, you see a lot of people, like we said, they get sucked up into the front of the vehicle. And one thing that's really important to note is that one of the worst places that we could really be, that we could really put ourselves if we can avoid it, is really over the top of the car. In this position, if you look, I mean, really just based upon the average height of the average human being, we're in a position right here, especially if we're sucked up on the vehicle, to take a round right to our head or right to our chest. So, you know, like Steve had mentioned earlier, the same rules and principles of use of cover apply. So if we did have to go ahead and shoot over the hood of the vehicle, obviously we're going to want to go ahead and give ourselves standoff. That's going to allow ourselves to take advantage of the trajectory, the curvature of the hood, which is going to give ourselves the greatest amount of opportunity for those rounds to deflect and for those misses to still be misses. We don't want misses to become hits. Moving slightly farther back, we have this area of the windshield. Now, this is something that's kind of overlooked a little bit, especially you know, in some circles. So the windshield actually provides a tremendous amount of ballistic protection as well, in the sense of the trajectory and the geometry that it causes the rounds to deflect off of. So this convex shape here, when rounds are impacting this, it's going to that trajectory again. Geometry is going to help those rounds deflect off, and also we have all the cover and the ballistic protection from these A-frames here as well. So we've got the windshield here, we've got this A-frame support, and then we've got the secondary A-frame support on the opposing side of the vehicle as well. So if we did have to be in a position here, obviously gaining standoff, and we can be in a position where crouch down, pieing this area, and just getting as low and taking as much advantage of this cover as we can around the windshield and the A-frames of the vehicle. Like Steve had said earlier, the axles and the wheel well, the wheels themselves, and also this area around the engine block is going to be a great position. However, you are going to be in a position of disadvantage. So we can shoot underneath the car from dropping down. We can shoot underneath the vehicle, but like Steve said, it's not going to be a position that we want to find ourselves in, especially when we find ourselves in a situation where the targets are closer than say 50 yards.
Yeah, and another thing about that is that you're shooting underneath the vehicle, where it means the vehicle has to be a certain height off the ground. So if you practice it on your own specific vehicle at a range where you're allowed to do that, then that's great. Your tires are probably aired up. Well, if you take rounds to your tires and they sink down, then you need to have an alternate plan. We always need to have something to fall back on. And Steve was mentioning some of the ballistic protection of the windshield. Granted, he's not talking about any specific direct shots. This windshield has zero ballistic protection when fired directly upon. But when it's fired at a direction maybe right here, these rounds stand a very good likelihood, and when we've done our ballistic testing out here, we have found this, that the rounds can actually skip off pretty consistently, even with rifles. One thing that you have to take into consideration, if you're at the back of the vehicle, you're not going to be using any of this glass for ballistic protection. It's literally only here at this angle when we're specifically using this A-frame that this windshield provides very much ballistic protection at all.
That's a really great point to clarify, and yeah, that's one thing that we don't want to make sure we misconstrue. Being in any sort of position, taking rounds perpendicular to a windshield absolutely is not going to afford you, it's not going to do you any favors at all. But like Steve said, the position we are here, obviously you guys can't see the targets in the position that the camera's in, but where we are located in relation to the targets, this position right here, where we're sitting behind this windshield, will offer us some ballistic protection in terms of deflection.
Now moving on to the door. Inside the door, you've got a lot of nuts and bolts. You've got the window support. You've got a bunch of bars that run down and stuff, and those will randomly stop bullets. We can't count on that. If this is something I had to use, this glass was gone, or I could see through this glass, I could take shots here, but I would want to try to maximize my use of cover again, and maybe lean out, apply the same methods we do on traditional cover, lean out into this, or maybe use the A-frame that runs down here, this door support, and lean out this way and engage, or once again, go underneath. Granted, again, if I can see them, they can probably see me. So underneath the vehicle, if I can see them underneath there, they can probably see my feet. So it's something I have to pay attention to. So maximizing my wheels to try to, hide my feet and lean out and do pies and things like that we do with traditional cover, the same rules apply again. As we go further back, guys, it pretty much stays the same. It only gets worse when you get to the trunk area. Obviously, there's no engine. There's none of the core support there that we have that we can use as cover. We still have the same tire, we still have the same bumper stuff. We can obviously now go underneath the bumper back there and do some different things, but it's pretty much more of the same, but without the use of cover. The vehicle pretty much acts as concealment with the exception of the wheel and tire and stuff. So a vehicle can provide you a lot of concealment and some decent cover if you know how to use it right. One thing though we want to avoid doing at all costs is sucking up to it unless we absolutely have to. If I can start backing off, that gives me a little bit of leeway. Like I said, it gives me some vision over here to the side, so if a threat comes around the side, I'm able to react quickly to that. Whereas if I'm sucked up to this, I have no idea what's coming around the side of that vehicle. So these are some tips that you can use and apply and look at your specific vehicle and understand. And if you have the afford, or if you can afford to, and come out and take a class where, out here at the U.S. Shooting Academy, where we actually will take a vehicle and we actually fight around it and fight through it, shoot through the windshield, do all these different tests where you can actually see what your specific caliber and bullets and ammunition do, how it affects it on target, all the different points of cover you can utilize. If you can take a course like that, I highly suggest it. It's eye-opening, and it really helps prepare you for this piece of cover that we roll around in every day.
I really can't stress the importance of that enough. I mean, if you get out to the range with any sort of regularity, I'm pretty sure that you guys have had an opportunity to shoot around barricades and work traditional pieces of cover. However, if you did have to find yourself in the very unfortunate situation in which you did have to use your vehicle or another vehicle as a piece of cover, you don't want the first time that you're learning how to use that vehicle as a piece of cover to be in a gunfight. You definitely want to go ahead and come out to a class such as the ones that Steve puts on up here at the U.S. Shooting Academy and learn how to do it the proper way from the professionals. So, Steve, I appreciate you coming out here. And guys, I hope you found this video informative. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next week, stay gunfighter strong.